Folks, welcome home. This is the final edition today of the Cooking with Blondes. One of our favorite blondes, Kathleen, is in the house with us. She's desired to come back, and here she is. And we are getting ready for the Caribbean Christmas party this weekend at Shaker's, December of 2022. I think it's our 37th one. That's crazy. So the last dish that we're going to do is one of my all-time favorites. This is a Bahamian conch. It's scorched conch. And people say, why is it called scorched? Are you like taking an iron and scorching it? No. It's kind of a prevarication of the name, which is to score the conch. And then we're going to use natural fruit acids, in this case primarily lime juice, that is going to cure this. So this in many ways is like a ceviche. Great flavors. There is a restaurant in the Bahamas, and it is in Cazarinas, the Cazarinas Resort. And I went down 4 separate times to get the recipe for their conch fritters. And they finally took mercy upon this white guy and let him in the kitchen and showed me how to make these things. And I got to stand next to them and make batch after batch of these. And they're marvelous. And the secret to that at the Roundhouse restaurant at the Cazarinas Resort is Wonder Bread. Wonder Bread. So it's not a baguette, it's not a brioche, it's Wonder Bread. Can't tell you how and why, but it makes all the difference as these things come together. They're soft, they're not chewy, they're just dynamic. So today we're using conch. Conch is a snail, it is a mollusk. And if you think about any number of B-grade Hollywood movies, the 1940s and 50s, I'm sure you saw them all, where you got a native in a dugout who needs to warn everybody else that things are coming, like those nasty European settlers, and he reaches the bottom of his canoe and he pulls out the shell and he blows into it, oh, kind of a thing like that, and it resonates forever and it warns people something's up, right? Now, what scientists are now starting to realize is that each species on this planet, this little rock of ours, is able to communicate with others, and they do that on a frequency or band that we can't discern as human beings. But they certainly do seem to have the ability to talk to each other, and sometimes even amongst themselves. And there's a speculation that the lowly snail and all the iterations, hundreds of iterations of snails, are really going to be at the top of the pecking order in the world, because they can not only communicate with whatever language that they've got, but it's almost like they can kind of telecommunicate, and then of course they leave these slime trails everywhere of their mucus as they move around, which are encoded with other information nuggets. So not just snails, but other species of other things, grasshoppers, whatever, apparently, conjecture, can interpret what they're saying as well. Fascinating, to me at least. So what you would do, and they've got everywhere in the Caribbean, has got these. What we're using today is the meat that comes out of Turks and Caicos. And Turks and Caicos are just lovely part of the, I believe it's the Netherlands Antilles, but a gorgeous little chain of islands that's there. It's a fun place to vacation, but in my mind, the best conch comes from Turks and Caicos. That's where this is from. But they come from a shell that looks like this. It's part of the queen conch family. And sometimes these are called helmet conch because the larger versions kind of look like a helmet. You think about like Pirates of the Caribbean, you see that guy with the conch head as well. So, and of course Jimmy Buffett, you got the conch heads there everywhere. But beautiful polished shells. It's all natural. No one's put their nail polish on this. They're just gorgeous. And they have different styrations and colorations. And sometimes it's beautiful lavender and pinky and orangey or even purple. They're just gorgeous creatures. So this is probably about 50 or 60 years old. And they're everywhere. When you get to Nassau, there is this monstrous conch. There's a roundabout. And before they take you into the place where, of course, the casinos are, because they want your money, and this conch has to be, 11, 12, maybe 15 feet tall, just massive in the center of this roundabout. It's gorgeous. Anyhow, so that's what this is. That's what these are. Now, we've got this beautiful meat that's right here. Feel it? Ooh. Probably felt different than you thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah.
So it's very dense feeling, and yet it's very clean feeling to me, at least, right? So all I'm going to do with this right now is you got your blade over there. Mm-hmm. Now this is going to be a little bit tougher. You're just going to cut through it. So when the conch is fresh, there's not a lot of resistance. This is going to be just a little bit more than, say, a shrimp would be. So, I mean, it's really easy to do. Now, you want this to be bite-sized. So, we could take this down to pieces that are just about like that. And if you wanted to use a food processor, don't do it. And the reason is because that's just going to mulch this, and you're going to have this glop, which is okay if you're doing conch fritters or conch cakes or something like that. But we're doing this. Now, in the Bahamas, and the section where they have the most conchers is, and you will find this because there's a mountain of conch shells, but all the boats are there as well, coming in with every day's harvest, which is extraordinary. They will make this usually in a plastic bag for you. So you had a little baggie that you go down there, and you get this. And the first time you get this, you're like, what the heck is this? But you start eating this thing, and you're going, oh my God, this is just fantastic. So these are also for you to do.
Okay.
Now, you think about like octopus or something, and we do a decent amount of octopus and shakers, and we either do it Mediterranean style or Bahamian style or Brazilian style. Octopus are everywhere. Another incredibly intelligent species, by the way, and at some point we're going to be, little karma paying a price for taking advantage of these things and eating them. Make no mistake, though the conch probably could not devour you, an octopus would think little about ripping you apart and eating you, just like almost anything else in the ocean would be. Well, it's a matter of survival, right? So these are all going to go into this mixing bowl. Your mixing bowl could be anything that is non-reactive, so that means glass and stainless steel are your best picks. And I'm just taking the roll of tomato, and I'm just cutting it down. If you watched our sequence on the Hawaiian food, you probably saw that we did lomi lomi, which is a Hawaiian version of ceviche, which also uses aromas, tomatoes. And it just, there's a commonality between most cultures in the world that they use the resource, they have just slight little derivations on things, they never had the opportunity to communicate with each other, and yet this connectivity is everywhere. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about food, is we can explore all those little connectivity portions of that. You get into each individual culture and you learn so much about people and places and things. So just a standard green jalapeno here. And I want to keep the seeds in. I like the chili. I like the enzyme that's there and the little connective tissue that holds them in. I like just a little bit of that burn on my tongue. Brooklyn, I'm sure you do too.
Mm-hmm.
See, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want that to be smaller, you can. It doesn't matter. It, again, is something that you should embrace and make your own. Now, these and these are going to go into here. Then, just because I want a little bit more zippy kind of thing going on, we are going to take ourselves a Scotch bonnet. You don't need a lot of bonnet, and I recommend, unless you're cooking with these things all the time, that you wear your gloves whenever you use this. There have been so many line cooks and sous chefs at Shakers over the course of time that have used these, and then even though they go back to the loo and wash their hands, they will touch their contact lenses, they will interact with more sensitive parts of their body, and they are just going to be in pain for an extended period of time. And the way to get past that, I think, is really wine with a high degree of fruit acid, because that will diffuse some of those components of the chili pepper. So, ma'am. So it's really simple so far, right?
Yeah.
And again, if I wasn't jabbering away, this could have been, 5 minutes worth of work, right? All right. So the next thing is we have some limes right here. No coconuts, but limes. And the reason I mention that is because in Cartagena, Colombia, they have a cevicheria, which has dozens of styles of ceviche, and almost all of them use coconut. That's their thing in Colombia. So please, if you don't mind, let's go through all of these.
Okay.
Oops. there is one relatively famous place in the Bahamas that is doing pineapple with this as well. Pineapple is, of course, indigenous to the islands and all equatorial areas. In my mind, the best pineapple really comes from Costa Rica, and probably right after that would be Hawaii. But my point on this is that the Bahamas are doing it because it gives, especially American tourists that are there, a commonality with flavors that is more than just the citrus components and or the acid. And it gives them a little familiar component that they can work with. I'm not offended by that. There are some native Jamaicans that are very much offended, or Bahamians rather, very much offended by the fact that they're doing pineapple in there. Again, I think that it grows on the island. Use whatever you want to use. Here we are, and we've got all this yumminess going on there. If we wanted to use another type of onion, we could do that. If you want to use yellow onion or red onion, that's perfectly fine. Anything whatsoever. Maybe just a little bit more than of the green in there. And if you would grab a large spoon from behind me, Kathleen, and mix that around a couple times. This is the kind of thing that is better in an hour or even the next day than it's going to be right now. Though I eat an awful lot of seafood and shellfish that is raw, rare, this is something that the flavors really enhance it once it has a tendency to set up a little bit. So I'm not going to use any salt or anything like that on here. We're just going to mix it around together. And what we typically would do in-house is that we're going to serve this over a salad, like a spring green salad, maybe a rocket salad, something like that. I just want to have a little bit more of interest taking place. This is great, by the way, with avocados as well. It's dynamic, and it's refreshing. It should be served cold. It's phenomenal. So conch, which is ridiculously expensive right now, but the flavors are just sublime. And I think that in many ways, this gives lobster a run for its money. I'm going to let this set up for a while, and then we'll show you a picture later of it being served. How's that? So Kathleen, I hope you had a good time with this, but again, incredibly easy, right?
Yes.
Welcome to Cooking with Blondes. We hope you had a great time. We hope to see you soon. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Cheers.